Hello, welcome to session. So in this session we are going to see about the shadow paging. What is the shadow paging? Why shadow paging is necessary? So what is the role in shadow paging in the database management system? So let us see. So the main aim of this session is to familiarize about the shadow paging concept in DBMS. These are the instructional objectives. So it ensure in order to ensure the data consistency, durability and availability, this application is used. And next one is these are the outcomes. After listening to this session, you are able to know about what are the limitations and benefits of shadow paging technique using in the database management system. So let us go for the definition. So shadow paging, the main definition of the shadow paging is it is a recovery technique used in the database management system to ensure data consistency and integrity in the event of a system failure. This is also, shadow paging is also one of the concept which is mainly used at the event of the system failure in order to ensure the database management system, ensure the data in the database management system. In shadow paging, the database system maintains two page tables. One is the current page table and the next one is the shadow page table. So it is a recovery technique. In this the transactions are performed in the main memory only. So after the completion of the transactions, they get updated in the database directly. So however, it didn't show up in the database if the failure occurs during the transaction execution. So whenever if the failure happens during the transaction, it will never show up in the database. So the main use of this technique is maintaining the consistency in the data if the failure happens in any case. So this technique is also we call as a cutoff place updating. We can also shadow paging called as cutoff place updating concept. And next, it offers durability. So the main importance of the shadow paging is it offers durability and atomicity to the system in the entire process, and it also uses only few disks for the complete of the operation, because we are saying this shadow paging will be done in the main memory only. So it will utilize the only few disks. And it is also known to give power manipulating pages in database, and it is very also important step in order to perform. Okay. And next, these are the different kinds of the functions to do shadow paging in the different environments. We have the different two types of environments mostly. One is a single user environment and the second one is a multi-user environment. So when we talk about the single user environment, the recovery scheme never asks for the log. So in this single user environment, because only one user will be used in that environment, that is the reason it will never ask for the log. So the entire operation can be easily completed without the use of the log in any manner. But whereas in the multi-user environment, different users will interact with the environment, so it should completely maintain the logs unless and until we can't able to know where the problem has occurred. So it is a strongly requirement for a log, as it involves concurrency control procedure in multi-user environment. So this is the example of the shadow paging. So in this example, we have the current page which is having the updation of the some page 2 and page 5 in the current page table, whereas in the shadow page it doesn't have the updated ones, but it will show the only the old data. That means it will having the old data. So whenever you current page is there, whenever it is updated, whenever this one is committed, then only the shadow page will be updated. This is a small example how the shadow page will appear, will show. And next, so what are the advantages of shadow paging in database is there is a overhead removed in the log record output with the help of shadow paging. So for example, we have the different logs, so many of the logs records. So in order to maintain the log records, and we have to check if anything happened, that means it is some headache. So this shadow paging will remove those log record outputs. Okay, it makes sure that recovery process is performed in a much better way from the crash than the logs. So the shadow paging asks for very less number of disks for the performing the entire operation. So whatever the different operations we are providing, so in order to complete that entire operation, the shadow paging will take only less number of the disks, and whatever the operations like undo and redo, so it not performed during the shadow paging. So and it is an inexpensive and faster method to perform recovery after a crash. Whenever the crash occurs, so it is very inexpensive and the faster method in order to recover. Okay. And next, these are some of the disadvantages. So for every thing we have the both advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons. So these are some of the disadvantages of the shadow paging in the DBMS. So it is mainly tough one to maintain some pages which are very closer to the desk due to the location changes. And next one, so if there is a chance of data fragmentation, so while performing the shadow paging, it is also there is a chance for that. And whatever the system needs multiple blocks performing the single transaction, it reduces the execution speed. So for example, multiple disks, if you want to maintain for the single transaction, then automatically whatever the execution speed is having, so it will automatically reduce. So extending the algorithm becomes difficult for letting transactions which are operating concurrently. So these are some of the disadvantages when we are using the shadow paging concept in the database management system. So is shadow paging different from the log based recovery? Yeah, let us see that one. So log based recovery is very important, used to structure the record database modifications that we have already seen in the previous session. So log based is very important in order to make some modifications in the database. But many people, how they are different from the shadow paging? We are saying shadow paging will not use the logs. Then how is different from the shadow paging? Let us see the differences between them. So log record is made of using different fields like data, item, identifier, transaction identifier, new value, old value. Whereas shadow paging is only made from the certain number of fixed sized disk pages. Like this it is different. Is shadow paging different from the log based recovery? Yes. Still, what are the points are there? So whatever the search process we are using in the log based recovery is a very long process, because if you have made in the from 500 logs, so if you want to search some of the log, okay, so it will become some more difficult one. And while the things become very faster in the shadow paging, in order to eliminate this log record output, that is the main advantage. We are also seeing this point in the advantages of the shadow paging recovery. So there is need only for one block to complete a single transaction in the log based recovery, but whereas in order to commit of one transaction as per a multiple blocks in the shadow paging. In order to complete one single transaction in the log based recovery, it requires only one block, but whereas in the shadow paging it requires multiple blocks. And whatever the locality for the property of the pages is lost in the shadow paging, wherever it never happens in the log based recovery. So these are the some of the differences between the log based recovery and shadow paging concept. So this is a summary of the shadow paging. Shadow paging is one of the technique to provide the atomicity and durability, two of the acid properties in the database. We have the acid properties. So those acid properties, first one is atomicity and next one is the durability. So these two are most important in the shadow paging, plays an important role in order to providing these two things in the database management system. So if the page in this context refer to a physical storage, probably in the hard disk in the main memory, typically of 1 to 64 kilobytes. Okay, shadow paging is a copy on write technique. We can also call copy on write or cut out copy on write technique for avoiding the in places updates of the pages. Instead, when a page is to be modified, shadow page is located. Since the shadow page has no references, it can be modified liberally without consent for consistency and constraints as okay. So when the page is ready, become durable, all pages refer to the original and updated refer to the new replacement page instead. So because the page is activated only when it is ready, it is automatic. Okay, these are the some of the summary points. And next, some self-assessment questions shadow paging has. So what is the answer? So answer is a redo but undo. And second question is, in the scheme, a transaction that wants to update database first to create a complete copy of the database, all of the shadow copy, we call as a shadow copy. And we have some of the terminal questions. This is one of the self-assessment question. In the dash phase, the system replays updates of all transactions by scanning the log forward from the last checkpoint. Answer is the redo. In the redo phase, we have to system replace all the updates. Okay, and next, so the actions which are played in order to in the order while recording, it is called as a repeating history. It is the answer is the repeating history. So these are some of the terminal questions, mostly asked in the shadow page table. Thank you. These are some of the references books and links to refer the concepts. Thank you.